Is there adapters for adapters?
Now, after you get it up, go ahead and create a new Xcode project. Single view app.
Where's my mouse? Where is JC?
And you can put whatever name you want in there. I'll put T3. So our goal here is to pass information from one view to another view. Let's say activity, but that's Android Studio. Got a video for this, so we're going to play the video and we'll pause it and go from there. Now the video I couldn't get quite to work, but there's so many different steps that I thought this would be best.
This video, we're going to take a look at how you...
A little bit loud. System preferences.
Ooh, quadratic formula.
Sound.
Turn that sound down. You're gonna say turn that sound upside down. Turn that sound upside down. This turns the speakers.
Oh, yeah. I already have it up here. That's weird.
Just a wee bit.
Doesn't allow me to set the volume.
So we're just gonna go deaf real quick.
Looks like it.
All right. Heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Uh-oh. Spaghetti-o. Sorry, it was involuntary.
How bizarre.
Yeah,
There, lets me set the volume down here.
Yeah, I can see you from the corner of my eye. You're messing around. Oh my gosh, the Duchess of Sussex closed the car door.
When I choose Epson, it doesn't let me select it. Let me choose internal speakers. There we go.
Magic. I play with that all the time.
Can pass data from one view controller over to the next one. So it's basically a global variable, just a bit more efficient and effective. And as you will see, it's not that much to code. It's very simple once you get a hang of it. So let's start by creating a new Xcode project. And I'm going to call my project, let's see, pass data. And I'm just going to save it on my desktop. And that's it. Let's jump over to our main storyboard. And here we are just going to lay out our app for now. So we have one view controller and we need one more view controller in order to be able to pass some data.
Okay, so we're going to go to our main storyboard. And I'm going to shut off some of those side ones. Make this bigger. And we'll drop another view controller on there, right to the side of it. Okay. I think all he does is drop a text field on here, but we'll see.
And then I'm going to use a text field, drag that in, and
Okay. Put another view controller.
Mm-hmm.
And put a text view.
And then I'm also going to use a button, just like this. And then I am going to use a label right here and another button, just like that.
Okay, so on our first screen here, we want a text field. Right there, and we also want a button. And our other one, We want to label this is receiving, so let's receive it. And then a button to go back. Good so far?
What our app is going to do is I'm going to type in something here. So, for example, my name. And then I'm going to have a button here that I'm just going to call enter. So I write my name there, I press enter, and when I do that, it transitions over to my second view controller and displays in this label what I entered in my text field. And then I can click this button right here to go back. So let's just make some connections here by clicking on this yellow button, then control dragging over to our second view controller, clicking on.
Now he talks about setting it up this way. You can also set it up just via the button like we did. That's kind of your choice. I want to set mine up just with a button. So they put something in here, click this button, and it'll go to this. So remember, we hold down a control on that and drag and, wait a minute. I'm not going to set that up yet. I lied to you. I'm bad about that lying. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create the connections in my code for this. So, this is kind of skipping ahead a little bit. But we got our second controller here, but we only have, I'll turn on the left panel, we only have one viewController.swift. We need another one. So go ahead and do a File, New, and choose File. Now come up and what? Oh, yeah, and we want this right here. So go ahead and click Next. View controller, I'll call it view controller, what's he call it? I think he calls it second view controller. So I'll refer to it as second view controller. Make sure it says subclass of user interface view controller. If it doesn't, you do the drop down and you want to choose the UI view controller. You click Next. And then click Create. And it brings up the code for our second view controller. If you go back to your main storyboard, if you choose your second screen, second view that you created, and you choose this, you might have turned on your right panel for this, but you choose the one that looks like, I don't know what it looks like. It says identity, so I'm guessing it looks like a driver's license. But it's the third one here. Could be a chart. Then you'll see a class, and you can do the drop down. And these are all of your available classes.
Mine says not applicable.
Not applicable.
You have yours applicable or applicable? You have to click on whichever view control you want.
Oh, yeah, you have to click this. Sorry. The view controller here. I was wondering why I was getting so many options. And you'll see all the controllers that are available. And there's one that we created. See the second view controller?
Yeah.
So you want to choose that. That associates with this second screen, second view. It associates that code. Now, if you click your first one, and you click this yellow circle, you see it already says view controller, doesn't it? That's what connects each individual screen, each individual view, to the controller files over here. Of course, you're going to drop on 2 more, right? So for each one of these that you drop on, you'll click this, and then you'll come over here, choose that class, make sure it's associated with the correct code. Clear as mud? Okay. Well, now, I'm going to go back to my main one here, and I want to go to my 2 circles, the code, shut off the left panel and right panel.
Go down to the bottom.
The what?
You go down to the bottom, you can close the other panel.
Is it a little square thing at the bottom left?
Oh, I like this one. Is that the one you mean?
Yeah.
The reason why I like it is because you can quickly click it, and it brings up the other one. That's going to be useful for you because you'll have 4, won't you? So you have 4 over here. So to go back and forth between them, you just simply click that. But it can be smaller. I wish you could bring it clear over. Okay, so you want your first one chose. Now I'm going to click this, hold down with my control, and drag that and drop it under the UI view controller line. I'm going to call it, what do I want to call it? I think he calls it text field with an uppercase F. And then I'll press enter or return. Now it creates our connection. Now I want to go ahead and drop this button on here too. So I'm going to hold down my control and drag that before this last curly brace. Lit up. I'll call this button click. I'm going to call it an action, and specifically I'll call it a user interface button. And then click connect.
Oh, you got to do with video. Yeah, that one's stupid.
You don't like the new version?
No.
Huh?
Not at all.
I prefer the new one. And I got the old one.
Switch?
Yeah, I think I messed something.
Now, we want to go to the second view controller. When you go to the second view controller, or go to the first, you click here. See how it's viewcontroller.swift? If I click my second one here, and you click over here in the code, see how it changes automatically? It changes automatically because that's how we kind of set it up, wasn't it? Remember how we chose the class? Okay. Now, I want to drop on the label, so I hold down my control, drag the label down underneath the UI view controller here. I'll call this LB underscore name. And press return. And this button, actually, I don't even need to associate that button with that. I won't drop that on. Now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. You what?
I'm confused with this new layout because if I connect the text field, it says text field, then in parentheses underscore sender colon n. Here it does.
You chose an action.
Share holding the leg there.
And then hold down your control. Do you not hold down control on that? Oh, that's nice.
Come on. You want to see it? Well, let me pull up my first view controller. There we go.
delete that and hold on your control for drag it. Might get rid of that brace there.
No.
So does it function.
Interesting.
Did yours do that yesterday?
No.
Let's see. Let's see what's
I'm the only one who likes Mac. Why don't you just give Mac?
How do I feel about Max?
He's just pointing at the
Second view controller.
Alright, well, we're fixing JC's problem. Yeah, I'm working on it.
Turn it back on.
How bizarre.
Okay, I set all those texts. Now from that, we're gonna do another public void. Button underscore. See, that's what you call a good picture. I'm sorry if my camera is not the best. There's no way that that's what your camera displays. Like, I bet I could take a good picture with your camera.
How do you get to your items? Your text field.
Okay.
So it doesn't over there on Mac anymore?
No.
Up on text field. Go to the code.
Wait, do we need to send it back to input? Do we need to return it to input? Where do we return it then? Or do we not even need to return it?
No. Maybe it'll still work. Let's see.
Oh, medium, set text. Yeah, I know, I already did all that. I'm on public void. Look, I'm wondering if we need to return it or not. No, it's already set text, so we don't need to do any of the public void.
Well, I'll show this, and you're gonna have to pull out one of the old ones.
Yeah, probably help.
You ready? One good get up for it?
Yeah.
Okay. Your question, I remember which ones I changed.
What?
What's the issue?
Did I forget? Oh, it's because I was gonna do the
Are you sure I need to add that order, JC? Where do I put the order? Yeah.
I think this is an old one. Has files on it indicate it's an older one.
Alright, JC. What do we do the order? Yeah, what do we assign the order to? Because it's not like we're fetching the order, or will we need to put code into,
We have to put code into
the items and then send it to the administrator?
yeah, that's what we have to do.
Okay, so we just put it here for now. Now let's rebuild that.
Okay. So we want 2 controllers on there. So go ahead and drop on that extra controller if you haven't already. Actually, let me start over.
I'll wait for that's the impact of that point. Why? Please.
And then I'll do a file, new project. Choose single view app. Click next. I call it T4. So I got a T3. Click create. Okay, so we got our main storyboard here. We got 1 view controller. We need another view controller dropped on there. So we'll do a file, new file. We want its touch class. So I'll go ahead and click next. And I'll give this a name of second view controller. And I'll click next. And click create. And you should have 2 view controllers over here then.
Isn't the subclass supposed to be a view controller? UI view controller?
Was it not when I did it?
Usually it's set to default when you do it though. The same.
Yeah, mine's a view controller.
Oh,
But yeah, you're right. It should be a UI view controller. Okay, so we should have 2 files there now, view controller Swift and second view controller Swift. I go back to my main storyboard and I'll maximize this, shut some of the panels down. Oops, I need the right panel. We want to drop another view controller on there. Now, if you click your first view controller and click that the little yellow circle, you'll see that the class automatically says view controller. That's a view controller.swift. If I click this one and have the yellow one selected, now if I do the drop down, let's try that again. How did I screw that up so bad? Main storyboard. Okay. Okay, back to where I was. So I'm going to click this second view controller. It's got the yellow already highlighted. If I do the drop down, not the arrow, you should see your second view controller. That's that second view controller.swift we added. That's what makes a connection between the two. Oops, left panel. Now you should see these both over here now. If you click the view controller here, it should go to the first one. You click that, it should go to your second one. So for my first one, I want to drop on text field, and I want to drop on a button. Now if I go to my second view controller, I want to drop on a label, and I want to drop on a button to go back. Now I can click this, keep clicking it. There it goes. I'll change that to back so I know which one I'm dealing with. Even though you can click over here, it's pretty obvious. This one I'll change what it says to pass the info. Everybody at that point? Okay. Now I want to go ahead and program these buttons. Remember how we do that? We hold down our control, and you can drag this and click over here. And we're going to do a show. Then I'm going to click my back button. I hold down my control and drag it back over here. And I'll do another show.
So
Good so far?
we did something different.
Well, we hadn't got that far last time.
Yeah.
Um,
We're adding the
Now we're going to add these to our code now. So I'm going to go to the two circles. I'm going to shut off the right panel.
this, that, show, that, show.
Now I'm going to click my text field here. I'm going to hold down my control. And by the way, it should say view controller here. Hold down my control and I'll drag that and drop it underneath the user interface view controller. And give it a name. Let's see.
You did text text field with a capital F.
Oh, that's right, I did, didn't I? Okay. So I call text field, return. You should see a connection there. Now if I click my second viewer controller here, I want to do the same thing with the label. And when I switch this, you should see this say second view controller. In my office when I was playing with this earlier, I had to actually click here sometimes to get it to change. And we'll do the same thing. We'll hold down our control and drag that below here. And I'll call this LB underscore
You did name.
name.
I'll be in.
Okay.
I'll change it from what are you talking about? Second view controller. Click on. You click on. Click that. Click over here.
Now you have to go to your second view controller and you have to make sure it's connected to the class.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that's good. Class.
So you see second view controller up there?
All right. Well, I didn't. I needed to find that. The code for switches. Let's see.
Okay, so we got a second view controller selected here, and second view there. Okay, so then with this one selected.
Huh? Which one?
Okay, I'm coming here.
So I gotta go back and forth.
You got space.
What am I supposed to?
No.
That could be why it's messed up. But, yeah, you can go here direct.
Okay, so we do need
I
to
don't see
do.
it. I don't see a label here.
I can put on.
Oh, you haven't got that far. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to find it.
So we do need a public void.
Switch.
Underscore switch, I guess.
I think it's kind of flaky. Like I said, it wouldn't always go to the file. I had to actually click over that window. You just want to make sure you drop it in the right place. Okay. Now back to the movie.
Control, and then giving our segue an identifier. I'm just going to call it
This connection here, or segue, we want to give it a name. So that's the next step. So you want to make sure you click the right arrow. The one going from our first view, first screen, to our second view, second screen. And if you choose the little, whatever that is, flag thing or boat or whatever, then identifier up here, you can type, give it a name. SEGUE is what he uses.
Well. Oh, identifier, give it a name.
Yeah. We'll refer to that name later on, so that's why you have to give it a name.
So do you just name it segue?
You can, but it can actually be any name.
Let's do segue 1 and then segue 2.
Yeah, you can. Just have to keep in mind where to change that at. So. Okay.
segue. Then I'm also going to drag a connection from this back button, and I'm just going to do it simple and easy. Just click on show, and here we got our connection. Then we also need a view controller file for our second view controller. So for this view controller, we have this one right here. And now we need one for this one also, so that we can associate some code with it. The way we do that is we say File, New, File. And we're going to make this a Cocoa touch class. Click on Next. I'm just going to name it Second View Controller. Make sure that it's subclass of UI View Controller. Click on Next, and then just say with where it recommends you to save it. And then I'm just going to do like this. And then let's head over to the storyboard. The last time, I think, no, we also need to make some more connections. But it's also important that we set the class equal to the file that we just created, which in my case was named Second View Controller. So now we got this file connected to this view controller, this file connected to that view controller. And now we need to make some connections so that we can use all of the elements, all of the buttons, all of the text fields in our code. And let's do that by dragging in, first of all, our text field. And make sure that you're dragging it into the view controller file, not the file that is associated with this one, but the one that is associated with that one. And you can choose that by clicking here, recent files, and then choose the file right here. Then we also are going to drag in the button so that we can trigger a certain action. I'm going to call it enter and make it an action. Oops.
We've already done that. We called it something different, but we're already, or have we? No, we haven't actually coded it, have we? Yeah, so I got the button here. And so then we're going to bring up our code.
View controller 2.
What?
Which view controller?
The first one. And then we'll take our button and we'll drag it. So we'll hold down our control, drag it down here, let up. And we'll call this button click. Say it's an action. Type user interface button and click connect.
Let's see if I can hit it. There we go. Action, and let's connect. So here we got one outlet and we got one action. So that's all we need to do for this view controller for now. I had a slight problem with Xcode, so I needed to restart it, but now we're back again. So I have connected all of those elements from this view controller. Now we have to connect the label to our view controller file.
Yeah, to redo it basically.
So make sure that you go ahead and you select the second view controller file that we created. And then we are just going to control drag label in.
We're done now.
Connect it up. I'm just going to name it label, simple and easy. There we go, now it works. It didn't do that before. And now let's drag it a bit wider so that we can fit a lot of text. And I'm just going to center the text so that it looks that much nicer. So here we go, we have our label connected. And now we are going to work on passing the data. So we have our two view controllers.
The what?
How did you center it? Stretch out the label and then you center it.
Yeah, you stretched out the label or whatever you're working with. And then here's your alignment. I think you did the alignment.
That makes sense. I'm just saying.
And we have the corresponding files, so view controller 1 and our second view controller. Now what we want to do in our second view controller, where we want to display the text, is we want to create a variable. So I'm just going to name this variable myString, which is equal to an empty string. And this is...
So he declared this is over in the second view controller file. Var myString equals string, and then beginning parentheses, closing parentheses. Did that after the label. So I'm in my first view controller, so I go to my second view controller. There, it switched. Then underneath the label here, I'll do var myString equals, see if I can remember that correct. That. So again, that says it's string, and then the beginning parentheses, closing parentheses indicates it's nothing's in it, it's empty.
Variable that we are going to fill from our first view controller. So when we transition over to the second view controller, we're going to set the text of the label equal to this variable named myString.
So this is the other view, the other screen is going to populate this variable. And at that point, this is in the view did load. We're going to add this code. Now you see where it says do any additional setup after loading the view? That's where you can put in your own additional code. And that's what we're doing here. We're doing a label, which I call mine LB_name.
He did it after the override
He did after the super actually, but either place is fine.
This isn't the second view controller.
Second view controller. And this has to be between, see, like he did his right after the super view did load. I just put it after the comments. It doesn't matter. So when it creates a new view, the new screen, we're going to see we're going to fill in this value here, and then when it does this code here, it actually loads that on that label. So those should be the only two things you need over in the second view controller. Most of it's over in the first view controller, I think. See if I remember right.
You can see we don't have a value for myString yet, and that's what we're going to set in our first view controller. So this is the view controller that's associated with this first one here. And this is where we're going to drag the value out of the text field and then push it to the second view controller. And this is the way we do it. We simply utilize a function that's named prepare for Segue. Now
how he got that is you go to your first view controller. You should see this change automatically. Just make sure you're in the right code. And down here, I'll click it before my button click that I put in there. If you just start typing prepare, your first item, you don't have to type very much. If you type PR, you'll see it. And you press enter on that, or return. And this gives you the segue. How do you transition between the different views?
What'd you type?
I just started typing PR, and it brought up prepare, and I just pressed enter.
Prepare for interface builder? No, sorry. Should be that's not.
Let's see.
Let's type PR. And convert content size.
This game on that. Do a backspace. I type PR, EA. There's the second one. It's curious, you have a different list comes up when you type PR. Okay, so that puts all of our information in there.
This function does as it says. It prepares something before it segues. So if we tell the code we want a segue, before we actually perform the segue, this function here is run. And what we want to do before we perform the segue is we want to take our data and then we want to throw it over to our second view controller, so the second view controller now has that data. And the way we do that is we push our second view controller into a variable. That's a very basic way of saying it, but it's actually what we're doing so that we're able to reference to the elements within that file. So we say var and then second controller is equal to segue.destination as second view controller. So we're basically taking the view controller to which we're segueing.
Okay, so we got var. So here where it says code, you click there and just start typing var second controller.
Yeah. Segue.
Now I was having trouble with that. That's just a variable name. When I was putting that in there, I kept choosing the wrong second controller because we had that second, activity controller or whatever? Second view controller. And I kept choosing the wrong one. So you don't have to make it so close to where you get confused, but I'll make it the same as him. So we got our var second controller is equal to, shove some of these panels,
Segue.destination
equals segue dot destination, and as, and then exclamation, and then second view controller. When you start typing second, you need to make sure it says second view controller. Okay.
Which is our second view controller, and we are storing it in our variable named second controller. And now, as you will see, we can now reference to this controller by saying second controller.
So here, if I reference my second controller, you want to make sure you choose the second controller, not second view controller. If you do a dot,
whenever you tab, it should automatically fill everything it shows out.
instead of just little pieces.
instead of little fingers.
Yeah, I know. That drives me crazy because it messes me up when I do that. Now notice we're in the first view controller, aren't we? But notice what we have access to. We got access to the label over there, the LB underscore name. We also have access to that variable we declared, my string. So it's like we're going to automatically assign it over in the other view controller. So we're accessing the variables over there.
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind it.
Then dot, and here we have all of the elements that we have declared in our second view controller. And one of them is, of course, my string. Now, it might be tempting to just say dot label, but because label isn't created yet on our storyboard, it is going to be equal to nil, and therefore you will get or run into a slight problem if you try to do that this way right here. So instead, we're going to say my string, which is the variable we declared, and then just set that equal to the text field dot text, and that's all that is required. Of course.
Okay, so again, we're doing a dot, my string, that variable we declared, equals, and we called the text field, and then I'll do dot text. Yeah, and I think he catches himself on that. He doesn't put it there originally.
Also need to initialize the segue, and we do that by first of all checking if the user has entered something into the text field. So if the text field .text is not equal to nil,
we're not going to do that.
Then we are going to perform the segue, and then I give it.
Okay. Now where that's at is in the button click where we put that at. This is where we're going to perform that segue. So keep typing as much as you need in order to see perform segue, and press return. Mm-hmm. Now the string, remember how we gave that segue a name?
Yeah.
This is where he connects that together.
Identifier, let's see. We want this segue right here, from this to this one, and just make sure that you have given it an identifier. I have given it the identifier set.
So here, where it says string, we'll type in our segue. Oh, we have to have quotes on it. Let's try it again. Yeah. I think sender's self, but let's see what he...
Okay, so let's paste that in here, and then just write self here, and now.
So come up, click any, and I type self.
Should have a fully functional app. Let's see, we probably need some force on wrap magic right here, and that should be all that is required in order to launch our app. So let's see how it performs. So
okay, so if we run it,
Mine
okay,
still has that initialization.
that'd be fine. That's just a warning. If I type in David here and click pass the info, you see it receives David. If I go back and I put Frank here, click pass the info, see it passes Frank. And that's how you can pass information back and forth between those. Now what I want you to do project-wise is
He's not meant much. You need to finish the other projects.
actually it's the same as the other project. I thought they had Word on here. Oh, I'll put it right here in the code. So what we're looking for the project is you're looking for 4 views, windows. Your first view is going to collect your first name, last name. This is an order app. Address, city, state, and zip. And then there'll be a button that will take you to the next view. On that view, you're going to have that, this is your order. So you'll have at least 2 options you can choose from, so they can pick which one they want to order. So 2 options that they can pick from. Again, you can do it different ways. You can do a little slider thing to choose, kind of your choice. Then a button to complete the order. So when they go to the next view, this should summarize all their information from both views. And then it should have a button that says order. So they click that, and in theory, that if we had code behind it, that would send the order in. And then it'll bring up the last view that simply says, thank you for your order. It does not have to have a button to go back to the original. So same principle as what we did before. Now you could, if you wanted to, just keep building upon this this project you already have open, because you already got the kind of the idea behind it set up there, so you can refer to it real easy then. But yeah, the rest of the time to work on that.
I got a issue.